That's a very nice thing you said about me. I didn't know that you were going to say such nice things about me. Let's start out. Good evening. My name is Chris Walker, and I'm the owner of Walker's Bike Shop here in Fort Dodge. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and for being invited to speak here and give my testimony. I love to give my testimony because it is a story of how God turn the hardest stories into the best ones. I might be a little emotional tonight, so I grew up here in Fort Dodge as the only child to two young parents. I've lived in Fort Dodge my entire life, went to school here, raised my children here, so I'm committed to this community and seen it thrive. My story begins at a young age in elementary school, where I was molested for several years by an older female babysitter. This happened for several years. I was convinced during this time to feel at fault for what was happening, and I hid the guilt and the shame I was feeling because of it. As I got older, I was a very young pre-teenager. I got into alcohol and drugs to help me smother my feelings of the shame I felt, and to help me feel more normal, and to help me fit in with other people. I saw a lot of things as a kid that kids should not see or experience. I even thought it was normal for me. I knew it wasn't normal for other kids. And I worked hard to hide what I was doing and how I was feeling from others. By the time I got to high school, I was drinking regularly. My experience of being molested caused me to become very sexualized early on, and I had no respect for women, viewing them as sexual objects, as I'd been treated as a sexual object. I met my first wife in high school. By the time I was 19, I had our first child together. It was very hard at the time, being very young parents, while I was still struggling with my substance abuse, my addiction to sex as well. I wanted to be a good father. It gave me a sense of purpose, and I tried to balance providing for my family with addiction. This carried me on through my 20s and my early married years. We were working and trying to have a family. And meanwhile, I was still living with the burden of the abuse I had faced, and the drugs and the alcohol I had used to escape all that. I often turned to drugs to help me work harder. I felt as though these drugs became the support I needed to have the energy and capability to work hard to make ends meet. When I was 30 and working in what was my parents' bike shop, a man on a bicycle, with a big cross on the back of his bike, who was riding across country, stopped at my shop and told me he had come. He'd come to tell me Jesus and he could save me. I rejected God up to that point in my life. But at some reason, I accepted the gospel, and I accepted Jesus that day. And now, and my wife now loves this story because she said she loves how God speaks to us in our love language. The Lord sent me a man on a bicycle to tell me the good news. God knows exactly how to talk to us, each of us. And at this point, I still had not surrendered my addiction to the Lord. I still struggled with drugs, and about a year later, I'd reached rock bottom. And one night, I cried out directly to the Lord to save me because I knew I couldn't save myself. It was at this time that I had a powerful personal encounter with God, where he delivered me from my addiction instantly. felt darkness being pulled out from me. And from that point, I was healed. A little insight to that, when he came to me, I saw the most beautiful light I've ever seen in my life. And I still feel that every day. It's like I'm there. It's so real. The path forward was still a difficult one. My marriage was damaged. I had a lot of work to grow into the man I knew I needed to be for my family. I had a sponsor in my AA named Mike, who believed in me. And he told me that God would use me and my story someday to help others. Mike is no longer with us, but every time I share my testimony, I remember what he said to me. I began sharing my story with other men. And I learned that the abuse I experienced as a child was sadly common and led me and many men into addiction. And yet these men have been afraid to talk about it. This is why I'm so passionate about protecting kids, that their lives and their innocence are sacred. Damaged kids grow into damaged adults, sometimes end up doing a lot of damage to others. My new focus in life was being a good dad. My kids were everything to me. I threw my life into family, fitness, the bike shop, and trying to rebuild relationships. In 2019, I took over the bike shop, which is now Walker's Bike Shop. And it was the first step in turning my day job into my passion in ministry. Over the coming years, I remarried my beautiful wife, Anna, and more deeply committed my life to the Lord. I didn't want it to be just saved. I just didn't want to be saved. I wanted to share the hope I had in Jesus with others. My bike shop became a place where people could come to talk, unburden themselves, and learn about Jesus. I've used it to help others who have escaped difficult backgrounds and addictions, to help them rebuild their lives. And I love hearing the stories about how Jesus freed others from the chains of sin. I've also learned that I'm merely a steward of what he has given me. My bike shop is not mine, it's his. I'm learning each day to surrender my worldly ambitions and my anxiety over success and money and give it over to the Lord. In the place of anxiety, he gives me peace. I try to worry about what tomorrow will bring because I know Jesus will meet me there. He never has let me down. One night back in 2023, I was praying to God to send me something or someone to show me where he wanted me to go next, or who I could help. And the very next day, Kelly Glasgow of the Church of Damascus Road walked into my shop, and he asked me if I would be interested in prison fellowship. And I was immediately, I was an immediate answer to my prayer, and I didn't even need to think about it. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I just said yes. And I walked into the mission that was made for me. Since then, I've been part of the Prison Fellowship Volunteer Program, the PFG program here in the Fort Dodge Correctional Facility. And being part of this has changed my life for the better. In the first few weeks of attending, my wife could tell me when I came home, I was just glowing. So amazing. Hearing these men share their stories, share their faith, talking about Jesus together has grown my faith tremendously and has made me deeply grateful for what God has done in my own life and what he's done and what he's delivered me from. I truly believe no one is beyond redemption, including me. There was a day when there was no one left who believed in me. I know how these men feel in prison when they express that. They are loved, and there is hope. God uses the hardest, the ugliest parts of our stories to do the most good. My past as a victim of sexual abuse, as an addict, is this very story God has used in me to help me love others and tell them about Jesus. My wife and I attend prison fellowship together. We do this together, using our marriage as a ministry to demonstrate to others what a faith-centered marriage looks like, and to use our love for each other to love those most in need. Jesus calls us to care for the most vulnerable, including prisoners. And that in doing so, we are caring for him. The funny thing is, it doesn't even feel like work whatsoever. It is a joy to meet the men and share all the human struggles together, learn from each other and grow. Every year I gain something personal from doing this that helps me in my own life. I'm not ashamed to tell others about Jesus because I never forget what he's done for me. I point to John 8:3-6, where Jesus says, "Whose Son sets free is free indeed." Amen. He has paid the debt. He has healed my mind and soul. He has set me free. I am not what I was, but I am new. I'm being made more new each day as I learn to surrender him more and more. My testimony reminds me of Paul in 1 Timothy 1:15. Where he says, Jesus Christ came into this world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. I am proof that God can take the broken heart, the bad choices, the addiction, the despair, and redeem it for his glory and for the good of his people. My testimony is a story of healing, peace, and freedom. And my motto for Walker's Bike Shop, and what I live by, is changing lives one pedal stroke at a time, helping people. And that's my testimony. I want to thank you all for listening, and God bless you all.